All right. Well, Kufar Akbar, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Cross and the Crescent discussion group. This is a once a week live stream show dedicated to rightly dividing the truth between Christianity and Islam. We're here every Monday for now from 5:30 to about 7:30. And I am your host, Eric Sekifer, coming to you live from the cavernous depths of the Kafir Cave in Dar al-Har, Kafiristan. Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you all had a blessed and happy New Year's celebration. Of course, the idea for this week's show was for those who didn't. Our friends down in New Orleans. I had a guy that I went through basic training was from New Orleans, and that's how he said, where are you from? New Orleans. Where in the heck is that? Is that from like the Congo or something? And he's like, no, it's just the way we talk down there. And I'm like, okay, well, you got your own little communication device going on down there. He wasn't a very good soldier, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so today what we're going to be talking about is the fruit of Islam in our blessed Bible. Rad, are you in the show or are you? Because it says, I don't know if you're, there we are. There you're in the show. What are you doing hanging out down there? You're supposed to allow yourself in. Can you do me a favor? I sent you, are you at home right now? Are you still out and about?
I'm checking out.
Okay, thanks. When we read our Bible, Christ tells us in Matthew, the book of Matthew, chapter 7, he talks about fruits. He says, beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes from thorn bushes or from figs from thistles? Even so, good trees bear good fruit and bad trees bear bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Therefore, by their fruits you will know them. And he also says in chapter 12, that same gospel, Matthew, verse 33, either make the good tree and its good fruit, or make the bad tree and its bad fruit, for the tree is known by its fruit. So we have it all over. And it's in James. It's also in the Old Testament. We have several verses where we can go by. And what he's talking about is you can tell the teachings, how good the teachings of something is by the fruits of those who act out on those teachings. And boy, have we got a lesson in that this week. And we weren't even into the New Year 3 hours. Well, maybe it was 3 hours. What was it, 3:15 in the morning there in New Orleans, where
it was 3 something in the morning when he decided to hit.
It was early on. Very good. It was early on in the morning where this guy decided to go literally jihadi on us American infidels. And we always, people are always like, why would he do this? Why? I mean, what would cause somebody to do this? Now, if this was just an isolated incident, and let me just reemphasize this: if this was just an isolated incident, Muslims would have a great argument. Saying, what do you mean? This is just one guy. He's gone nuts. He lost his mind. And, he acted out not in accordance with the Quran. So what I did was this week, after watching this on, what was it, Wednesday? Wednesday was New Year's Day. After watching
It was Wednesday early morning.
Yeah. I decided just to kind of write down some of the verses from the Quran that just might encourage somebody to do crap like this. And I was going to title the show how we know the Quran is evil, but I thought, that's just a little too provocative. Oh, by the way, last week's show, was it last week's show? I think it was last week's show or the week before. You're making me look. I'm gonna look. We had 900 views on that show. I was normally, if we get over 170 or so, we had a good show, but 910 views
Wow.
from last week. Yeah, that's pretty good. And I thought, wow. And we didn't do any, sometimes we'll push the show out there in Facebook groups and such, and we didn't do diddly squat. And I don't know if it was because of the title of the show. So I thought, if you title the show correctly, then people will come. And I think last week's show was how we know is, it wasn't that. What was last week? Let me look. Golly, would you stop, Kaffer? The last week's show's title was what? The Injil has been found. There we go. So if you put something like that out there, it's going to draw people to it. It's like, what do they call it? Clickbait? They call it clickbait. If you're just trying to bait people, into watching the show. And I don't do that. I normally, just put something out there that just is descriptive of the show. But I was thinking, should I put, why we know the Quran is evil as the title of the show? No, but we'll let people figure out what the fruits of the Quran are and let them decide for themselves. So I've cited several different Quran verses here, and I'm not going to read the verses. I'm just going to give kind of the description of them. And I did these.
Hey, Eric, I just got a question. This bothered me for many years. Is there such a word as fruits?
Is this a trick question?
I would say yes.
I thought fruit is like deer. It's both singular and plural.
Fruits.
Oh, now you're asking a good question.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Fruits. Well, we could say that California is full of fruits.
Okay.
I'd say it is actually the plural form. Yes, you can use both fruit and fruits as plural.
Thank you, Paul. And that's the educator coming out in him. And yeah, okay, I'm going to leave that alone. But does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So let's see what would cause some of these fruits that we are going to discuss in rather vivid detail today. I'm not going to just discuss them. I'm going to show you what some of these people are doing. Okay, so and I just put these in the order in which I think that the severity of them, because I honestly think that whoever inspired the Quran, if it was in fact some sort of deity.
Eric?
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
do you have the YouTube going, or?
Do I have YouTube going?
I'm not sure what it is.
Brad?
It says we're live.
Yeah, you've got to click out of that page or tab that you're out of it and go to a whole new tab. Otherwise, you won't be able to watch live. It's really weird.
Yeah, that is this. See, this is what I hate about this, because this has happened before. I don't know why this happens. I'm gonna have to get there. I'm gonna have to call Streamlab and figure out how, because this has happened several times. Four times, and I'm sorry. Yeah, it has gone live. It's just you have to, like Nico said.
There's a delay, probably, like the StreamYard. Yeah.
I have different devices going at the same time. So.
Okay. And also, let me do this. Before I forget, I'm going to pin the link to the top of Facebook just in case our friend Alaladine decides to come back today. I mean,
man has no intelligence.
that was kind of. Anyway, okay, so let me go through the top 11 verses. I was going to add to it, but there's more in here because some of these ideas have more than one Quranic verse that applies to them. Okay, for me, the number one is. Have I frozen or is Paul frozen?
I think it's Paul's side.
Paul was having on his live the other night. He was having all kinds of problems.
I shouldn't be having any issues. Fixed it. Now it's like way delayed.
I don't know what to tell you because you were delayed on Thursday's show. You were lagging quite a few times that I saw. Okay, so for me, the number one evil thing in the Quran is chapter 65, verse 4. And what this verse does is it sanctions the marrying, the consummating of this marriage, and the divorcing of little girls who have not yet had their first period. And I know a lot of people will say, well, that's old news. No, it's not. Let me find it for you. This is number 7.
I just had a conversation about this today.
You did?
Yeah.
With the Muslim?
I was talking about, no, it was with someone else who was asking questions, and she's like, is that true that they marry little girls? I says, well, let me ask you this. If you know Muslims have no problem with marrying 6-year-olds, and you had a granddaughter or grandson in your house, and a Muslim lived next door, would you be more protective? Yeah.
It just disgusts me to no end when I think of this. Okay, so screen. Here we go. Share. And my screen share. And where did it go? Here it is. Okay, show on stream. So you think I'm doubting this? And actually, this is part of the intro. This is a. Let me know if you guys can hear this.
Negative.
No sound.
Can you hear it?
No sound.
No sound. Okay, let's do this. Let's do this. And what is this? I don't know what that is. Eric Thecker for screen. Okay. I see. I see the title. Never mind. Let me do it. Let me try it this way. I think this is the way you do it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Where'd it go? There. Okay. Let's try it again.
The white-bearded man who claims he's 55 years
Can you hear that?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. All right. Here we go.
old comes to collect her. He's bought Parwana for 200,000 Afghanis, just over $2,000 US. Covered up, Parwana whimpers as her mother holds her. This is your bride. Please take care of her, says Parwana's father. Of course I will take care of her, replies the man. His large hands grab her small frame. Parwana tries to pull away. As he carries her only bag of belongings, she again resists, digging her heels into the dirt. But it's futile. The fate of this small, helpless child has been sealed.
Okay, so when we start talking about, when we start talking about the evils of the Quran, when an old scumbag, like the guy that we just saw in this video, is able to take a little girl like this as his bride. Let me put this picture of her back up on the screen. I don't know what else to say. There's some things in this world that just make you flippin' angry, and this is one of them. When you read in that verse, and I'm going to read it I'll just read it out of Usama's translation. 66, 65, 4. And for those of your women, this is talking about divorce. The requirements for a waiting period for a divorce. If you're going to divorce a woman, you cannot divorce a woman who is pregnant. So therefore, you have to wait for the woman to have 3 periods. Not that just one would do it for you. Allah evidently is not aware of the menstrual cycles of women, but we know now. But here's your 3. You get 3 shots.
Well, Allah knows what they are, but He doesn't understand their purpose.
It says here, and for those, and we're talking about the waiting period, and it says, and for those of your women who despair of menstruation, if you doubt that they may be pregnant, the prescribed waiting time is 3 months, as well as for those who have not yet began menstruation. And when you go in and you read the tafsir are very clear. These are little girls who have not yet reached the mature age to have a menstrual cycle. This isn't some women that might, and I've heard every excuse under the sun. Well, this is just women who, don't menstruate. Really? Like 1 out of 1,000 or what, don't have menstrual cycle. Really? Really? No, this is a license for old curmudgeons like that scumbag we saw in this video to do the almost absolute abject evil things that a man can do to a little girl. This is the divine sanctioning of them. If this isn't evil, I don't know what you can say evil is. This is pure, unadulterated evil. And it's right there in your Quran. Okay, let me minimize. I don't know if I was gonna. Yeah, I mean, they have pictures of this little girl and her family, and the family has no money. And what this does, it allows the dad to basically sell her off, and he does. Shame on that dad. When you can't provide for your family, okay, you'll do desperate things, but you don't sell your child into that. That's just as evil as it comes. All right, let me get back to.
Let me just say the mother too was like dragging her daughter into that marriage. It's just
yeah. She didn't. I mean, what do you do as a mother? Because what would that would be? That would be. Quran, that'd be number 5, and we'll get to that. That's Quran 434, where they're allowed to beat their wives if they fear disobedience. So if you try to disobey, what's your dad going to do to the mom? He's going to beat her. Okay, number 2 is Quran 98:6. This is where Jews and Christians are called the worst of creatures. Now, notice the word that's used here is creatures. We're not talking about Jews and Christians being the worst of people, the worst of cultures, the worst of religions, the worst of all mankind. This is the worst of creatures. This means that Jews and Christians are worse than snakes and cockroaches and pigs. There you go. Pigs. We're worse than that. So in Allah's eyes, and this is Allah providing that divine instruction to Muhammad on how to view people like ourselves here on this panel, that's shocking. This is a divine being saying that there are people out there who are not Muslims. They are the worst of creatures. And I get you have views of God, but the God of the Bible, the God of Christianity, is a loving God. And if you choose to reject him, that is your choice, and he will send you to hell, or no, he will allow you to go to hell because that is what you've chosen. But he doesn't say that that Muslims and Hindus and Buddhists or whatever, Jews or atheists are the worst of creatures. But here, and the reason why I'm going through these verses, folks, is because I'm going to show you a whole laundry list of where these fruits play out. Number 3, 929. Muslims must fight against people who refuse to admit that Muhammad was a prophet and become Muslims. And if we do not fight and we choose to submit to them, we have to pay them jizya. We have to pay them the what do they call that? Something tax, a capitation tax, some sort. Pay them a tax. We have to pay a special tax, and then we have to feel subdued. And there's a whole laundry list of things that dhimmis have to do once they are under the Muslim protection from being attacked. And being attacked from who? Well, it's like the mob. It's like the mob with a god is what all that is. So Jews and Christians have to pay the jizya if they want to live peaceably with Muslims. Number 4, we go to Quran chapter 5, verse 33, and it says, anybody committing corruption in the land. Now, do we have anybody here that can tell me what corruption is in the land? Who did we lose? Did we lose Paul? We must have lost Paul. Who knows what? Can somebody tell me what corruption, what it says in 533, corruption, those who commit corruption in the land?
It's things that are not good.
Things that are not good. Like if I was to not mow my yard, is that creating corruption in the land?
Could be.
If I was to play loud music and keep my neighbors awake, is that committing corruption in the land?
Could be.
This
is one of those times where the Quran has a very huge, very clear, extremely precise and devastating punishment for a very ambiguous, super ambiguous crime.
I was actually accused by an imam for committing corruption. Do you remember that, Rad? Darcy, do you guys remember that? Where Kenny Bomer accused me of committing corruption in the land on a live stream.
Yep.
Yeah.
Accused you of committing corruption in the land, and he was going to come pay you a visit with other Muslims at your school in Idaho.
Yep. Yeah. So anybody...
Go
ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to ask a question. Sorry, I was eating my grub, so I couldn't comment when this was brought up. But you brought up, the great Bible verses of know them by the fruits, right, etc. Steve, is there anything like that in Islam, where you will know the Muslims by their fruits or by their deeds or what those deeds would be, other than head chopping and pillaging?
No, there is a verse that they're the best of people. Am I correct? And that they're the best of people.
For mankind. They're a blessing to all mankind. So
as long as they are, because this verse that I'm citing here, if you are caught committing corruption in the land, you can be crucified. They can
have you amputated at your hands and feet, or killed.
Yeah, or you can be killed, or you can be exiled. So there's a lot of different punishments, but the one that sticks out, of course, is crucifixion. Here you have the God of the universe prescribing one of the most horrific methods to inflict pain and suffering on a human being, and it's sanctioned there in the Quran. This is, I mean, you could think of what the Pharaoh prescribes in the Quran. The Pharaoh says that you can crucify people, or he had people crucified. Forget the fact that crucifixion hadn't been developed for, another 1,000 years or so, but that's just a detail. But here you have Allah prescribing crucifixion for people committing a crime that isn't really all that clear. And I thought the Quran was supposed to be clear. So this is absolutely evil, in my opinion.
It is clear.
And
it's clear gibberish and clear hate.
And they did it, like to the Armenians. I mean, just to say, is this a verse just a bunch of gibberish? No, they actually crucified a bunch of Armenian women during the Armenian genocide. So maybe they caused corruption in the land. So.
Yeah, well, we actually have a picture of it. There's, as a matter of fact, one of the pictures in my intro is a picture of those Armenian women being crucified by the Ottomans. I don't know where this.
I've actually heard Muslims say it's merciful because first they kill you, then they crucify you, and then they cut off your arms and limbs. So it's more merciful.
Really? Yeah. Right. I don't believe that for a second. I mean, what's the point of crucifying a body that's already dead? I could see
display purposes only.
Hang it up there in the street for everybody to see. To serve as an example. Really? Not so much.
Hey, I don't believe it. This is just what Muslims have told me over the years. They say the strangest things, dude. Like, they just really do. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt. Please continue.
No, that's okay. All right. So, let's see. This is number 6. I want to go to. Let me. No, that's not it. Is this one it? Yeah, this one's it. Okay. So, we go to this one. Is what number are we on? Number 5. 533, committing corruption. Okay, number 5, Quran 4:34, which says that men are able to beat their wives if they fear that they are going to be rebellious. That's the gist of the verse. And I get it. Here's the excuse. No, that's not what it says. That's not what it says, Kafir. First, you must warn them. Okay, you're warned. I fear rebellion from you, so I'm warning you, don't be rebellious. And then you have to banish them from your bed. I'm not going to sleep with you if you continue to talk to me that way, because I fear you're going to be rebellious. And I know a lot of women are like, "Ooh, well, thank goodness, that's scary that you're not going to sleep." Okay, and then they're allowed to beat them. It's right there in this book right here, The Reliance of the Traveler. Paul, we've discussed this ad nauseum. They're allowed to beat their wives. And this is what happens when they're allowed to administer corporal punishment for women. This woman here is in Pakistan. I'm sure you're shocked. And this was a girl. She's caught in a relationship outside of marriage. And she's paraded in front of this large crowd and dealt with accordingly. Let me get it up here on the screen for you. I'm sorry. Just when I had to get the name of it. Here it is for your viewing information. Now, this guy right here, this is the guy that she was kissing up to or hugging on or whatever. Now, notice how many lashes he gets. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Not a doggone thing. But the woman, the girl, well, they beat the slipping snot out of that poor thing. And this is the system of abuse that goes along or goes on in this culture, in this people who follow this type of philosophy. It's sick. All right, let's go to the next one. I can't. I mean, I just.
Do you mind if I say something?
Yep, go ahead.
So Wael B. Halak, he's a Christian Palestinian, and he writes a lot about Islam. He's a scholar in Islam, and probably knows more about Islam than most Muslims do. His argument in his text, The Impossible State, is that he argues that pretty much all of these nation states can't they they can't actually function as an Islamic state because the modern nation state does not work with Islamic theology. So these are all kind of modern nation states. So that would be kind of his argument. I think that that would be kind of the argument because these people are trying to do modernity with an ancient tradition, and it just doesn't work. It's like mixing oil with water. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, this is when you start trying to apply secular standards in an Islamic environment. Which one do you think is going to win out? I mean, seriously, do you actually think that secularism in a Muslim society is going to carry the day? The laws are going to be adhered to, or even being allowed to pass? I mean, do you think that's possible?
I think, in my personal humble opinion, I think the modern state, when we see things like Christianity after the millennia, there's been a lot of like adaptation and kind of medding and transformation. It's kind of been sort of the inverse in the Muslim world, where you have sciences, you have philosophy, translations of Greek texts, but then you have this kind of reformationist movement towards more hyper conservatism and trying to stick literally to the text. And you have a lot of different ethnic groups that are not really aligned with each other and just multiple interpretations. So that creates a lot of tension and conflict, I think. So, and you see a lot of fear, particularly in the postmodern world. There's a lot of fear of what's called the Western world. There's fear of corruption, but in reality, there's not like an internal critique. There's on how personal cultural identities that these other places have, like the place you brought up, Pakistan, has the South Asian culture, which has a lot of regressive aspects within it. And we see those come manifest too. So it's kind of a fusion of these regressive cultural elements, as well as a fusion of kind of literal interpretations of texts. Like you see that, Jews and Christians don't really take hyper literalistic readings of text. Like, for example, the woman being brought to the gate if she was found a virgin but doesn't cry out. You see that doesn't come out because you have a lot of interpretations and scholarship and all this kind of stuff, and you do have that in Islam. But in a lot of these different places, you have a lot of cultural militia kind of what is that called? That mob mentality, vigilante type stuff, and there isn't a centralized, strong space. And I think you see this kind of come manifest, unfortunately, this kind of mob mentality manifesting.
Well, the mob mentality rules the day in Pakistan. I mean, I just saw an article today where some Hindu man, they took him out and just tortured the poor guy, and you'll never guess why. Blasphemy. He committed blasphemy. No, his neighbor just got ticked off at him, and his neighbor said, well, he committed blasphemy. So they took this poor guy out and just basically lynched him. And this is what happens in these Muslim majority countries. Even though they claim that they are a secular country, they have a secular government, they're full of crap. Even if you go to the moderate Indonesia, you have the same thing going on there every single day.
And just to point out, in Pakistan, the law is if you report a blasphemer and they kill them, you get all his stuff. So yeah, that pretty much incentivizes.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it's kind of like the outlaw system in Rome, where you were made an outlaw, and anybody who killed you.
Speaking of Rome, would you like to see what's going on in Italy today?
Yeah, 1 second though. I did want to address Isa on this topic. You mentioned the guy, the Muslim scholar, who said that Islam Sharia law cannot be properly implemented in these secular countries. Yeah, we heard that a lot. There's never been a time, you ask any Muslim, historian, scholar, whatever, whenever Sharia law was perfectly implemented. And you might get during the Rashidun Caliphate. Okay, you might get that, but most will say no. There's never been a time, and if you look at Islamic history, there's never been one single caliphate. It was like the ancient kingdoms of Europe after the fall of Rome. They were constantly fighting each other. There was never any unified Germany until 1870. There was never any really unified France until I think probably about the 12th century. There was never any really unified England until probably the 16th century, 15th century. Okay, so this idea that they have this idea that if only we do X, Y, and Z, we will get pure Islam. And then when they do X, Y, and Z, they don't get pure X, Y, Islam. They say, well, we got to do A, B, and C. It's always going to be something else. It's the same with any utopian system. You take, for instance, Marxism. I'll finish up this. Take Marxism. The neo-Marxists today said, well, no, there was never any real communism because they couldn't implement Marx. They will say that Stalin, that Lenin was closed, but then Stalin corrupted it. But then they will praise Stalin at the same time. But again, again, Marxism, they want to do what has never been done, but when they do it, it's going to be glorious. The same way with these Islamicists. It's never been done, but when they do it, it will be glorious. Anyway, your thoughts.
And I hear you totally. And I would say my kind of response to that would be, I would say that a lot of, like, if we look at where we've moved from the age of empires into the age of the nation state, right? So in the age of the nation state, you have, it's just a very different kind of narrative. And a lot of these people who are talking about caliphates and stuff, they're not. So you go to South Asian communities, Arab communities, a lot of these people aren't even trained in social sciences because there's this heavy push to go into natural sciences, like becoming a medical doctor, because that leads to social mobility where you can gain more resources. So things like anthropology, history, sociology, a lot of folks from these spaces aren't actually trained in these particular disciplines, which creates a lot of problems. Like you take Zakir Naik, who's a Muslim apologist, but he has no training in religious theology, nevertheless, or anthropology or history or sociology, but he has some kind of level of charisma and he's a medical doctor. I'm like, how is a medical doctor going to tell me about history, anthropology, or sociology? I'm going to go to an expert in that field. Like Eric here is an expert in history. He teaches history. That is his background, so he understands how it works. It's history is not just you can't just become a Google shake and read something online and then you understand history. You have to understand the different levels of how to do history. So the idea of the historical Islamic empire is correct. What you were saying, Rad, is that there were a lot of fiefdoms. It wasn't just a completely unified space. Probably the Ottoman Empire probably had the most cohesion, I would say, out of the empires of, it lasted for 600 years, but you're right, there were other rival empires that existed too, Islamic empires. And primarily how they functioned is that they were, at least when we look at the Ottoman Empire, they were pretty libertarian. They let people kind of do governance in their own areas. So they took
what did you say?
There was kind of like local governances on a lot of these different places. They didn't have like this like main centralized thing. They had a lot of mostly this kind of empire allowed for like local governance.
Okay, the Sultan was you know what Janissaries are, yes?
I do.
Okay, so how much autonomy do you have in your local governance when you are required to fess up X number of little boys each year for that? I'm not disagreeing with your premise here. I'm just kind of that's saying that they were liberal or they were progressive or at the time. They're still dealing in demanding human flesh as a payment.
I totally hear you. It was not perfect. What I'm saying is overall how a lot of these kind of caliphates functioned is that they allowed primarily for kind of localized government. So I'm not saying they didn't extort taxes or get people to join the military, get janissaries. Yeah, but empire is problematic all around. Like none of these empires are good or moral to our standards now. They're all pretty bad,
Well, I would say I would say that they're explaining the glory of the Roman Empire. Or what no, it's true. Okay, so emperors, especially are exist for centuries, right? They ebb and they flow, okay, and there are good emperors, okay, and there are bad emperors, okay, etc. But if you look at Roman history, which I do study for some reason online, I highly recommend again the book. You can get it on audio. It's called the Storm Before the Storm. Highly recommend, as well as his podcast. He really goes through it. But no, so the whole thing is this: in Rome, like Augustine left Rome up to the individual governances. He didn't impose anything. That's why he lasted so long as an emperor, and things were good in Rome under Augustine. Okay, the same is true with Vespasian. Vespasian left it up to local governances. He didn't press anybody. Okay, and so you find caliphates or caliphs in the Ottoman Empire.
Which point are we trying to? What point are we on right here? Are you guys trying to? Or this is 929?
Well, no, I'm just saying to Isa, there will never be a perfect Islam. Okay?
Oh no, I
there will
agree.
never be a perfect Sharia. Okay,
It's polyolithic. It's polyolithic. I completely agree with you. I don't think there is a centralized Islam. And I'm studying usul fiqh, and I'm studying the different kind of positions, and the Shia and the Sunni, like even what animals you can eat is debated upon. It's very similar to rabbinic Judaism. If you go into like Sunni Islam, it's a very similar kind of thing where you have a bunch of scholars debating what you can do, what you can't do, using certain kind of precedences of law. It's very similar to that.
see, that's why I'm so glad for Christ. I mean, just on that, he treated to that. No, he sat there and said, "Dude, what you kill, you may eat." You know what I'm saying? He made all things clean, and even actually the kosher pig, even in rabbinical Judaism, it says when Messiah comes, he will make the kaiser clean. He will make the pig clean. Okay, and that's kind of weird on that. But anyway, I think we're boring Eric here with all this talk of stuff like that. But no, I just think honestly to sit there and say, no, okay, let me finish it with this. The Taliban. Do you know the reason why when the U.S. pretty much kicked the butt out of the Taliban? Okay. Do you know the reason why they believe that they failed? Muslims all over the world, they told me this all the time on Pal Talk and other various places, is because the Taliban did not practice Islam enough. So they needed more Islam. And then they got ISIS, and ISIS was successful. And they said, you see, it works. This is how you practice Islam. And then they screwed up, ISIS did, when they burned that Jordanian pilot alive. That really tipped the scales. Okay, and then all of a sudden they weren't practicing Islam good enough. And that's why they failed again. Again, no matter what they do A, B, and C, and they fail, they're going to have to do E, F, G. So until they get to X, Y, Z, and then they're just going to replace it over and over again. And I'm sorry, Islam is a failed system. It can never work. Period. Just like
we had the example also of Iran, where, I mean, my wife tells me about what life was like in Iran. I mean, it was almost like living in America. It was so prosperous. It was life, and she was Christian, and everybody was living together. Everything was great. And then, but there was this impulse towards Islam. And when Ayatollah Khomeini came, that impulse turned into a raging, huge fire, and it engulfed the entire Muslim world, Sunni and Shiite together. And so as long as they got that kindling of the Quran system, I don't think Islam can break free of it. It'll always come back to it. It's kind of got a default kickback mechanism that'll bring, they'll move into secularism, move into, like the human rights agenda and all that stuff for a little while, but then there's this thing that yanks it back, and I kind of feel like that's what Ayatollah Khomeini did. He came, he opened the Quran, and the whole Muslim world, even Sunnis who hate Shiites, and yet they were engulfed by it. So, yeah.
I hear you. I just think it's difficult to see if there is like one kind of version of Islam. Like you can take like Ismaili Aga Khan Islam. You can take like different variants of Sufi Islam, different variants of Sunni Islam. There's a lot of there's not really a centralized thing. Salafis, the Salafi movement in particular, tries to peddle itself off as a kind of a form of Sunni Islam, and it tries to manifest in a way that it's like true Islam. But in reality, it faces a lot of problems. Like, for example, you bring this up a lot, Eric, the problem of tahrif. Tahrif means corruption. As Hussein knows, the Quran and the Sunnah, the argument is that these texts aren't corrupted, at least textually. There's no tahrif anas, right? There's not a corruption of textual corruption. You could say there's tahrif ta'wil, like a corruption of interpretation. You could make that argument. But I would say a lot of religious people would make that argument about other things. You could say, but the text itself is not corrupted. But the Salafi movement as a whole, and you see it a lot like on TikTok Muslims and a lot of these kind of Muslims that come out, they say, well, the text has been corrupted. Well, if you say that, then you violate the hadith of Jibril, which then states that that you have to believe in the prophet, you have to believe in God, prophets, God, the books and angels, and so on and so forth. But if you believe in the books, well, there are books. So you would be violating that creed of faith if you make that argument. So it's very fascinating because these people are claiming that they're true, but they're violating, fundamental creeds. So.
Actually, you know what? I kind of like where this thread's going. With your permission, Eric. So to respond real quickly to Hussein, yes, in Iran. Okay.
Can we wrap this up? Go ahead. Sure. Let's wrap it up. Okay.
Well, I just want to respond to Hussein real quick regarding Iran. Yeah. Well, let's wrap this up with this. Okay. So Hussein brought up in the before Khomeini came, Iran was a beautiful place. It was just like living in America. This is true. Okay. And the way it got there is that first of all, the United States of America plotted a coup and got rid of the who wasn't a socialist but became a socialist, Mozambique or whatever his name is. We got rid of the prime minister, and we actually did a coup. We got rid of their duly elected government. No, literally we did, and we installed the Shah. Okay, but the Shah had to be completely, in order to get it to this modern state, the Shah had to be completely brutal to who? To the Khomeinis. Okay, to the Islamicists. He imprisoned them, he exiled them. No, he was brutal. He had to be brutal to them, okay, to keep them down and oppress them because they were bat crap crazy. And they wanted to take Iran back into the 7th century. And to wrap this up and tie this in with Isa, yeah, fine. You get the what do you call them? The whirling dervishes, okay, the Salafis, not Salafis, Sufis, okay. Okay, Sufi Muslims, and okay, fine. You get a peaceful, sect of Islam that reinterprets "smite them wherever you find them" to mean give them hugs and kisses and a rose. Okay, fine. Misinterpret whatever. Okay. The problem is that the other Muslims who would interpret "kill them wherever you find them" are going to be like, no, it doesn't mean give them roses and hugs and kisses. It means to go ahead and kill them. So the peaceful Muslims are going to have to kill the non-peaceful Muslims, and thereby becoming the oppressor and oppressing the Muslim. And the cycle just continues, okay? And then you have a Khomeini, you have a Shah.
Let me address something that's going on.
But anyway.
Let me address what's going on.
Finish up with that. Yeah, sure.
If I don't mind him coming in here and making comments. But if you say one more thing, if you write one more thing about Steve's wife, I'm just going to kick you. To be honest, I could care less. What your opinions are. And I think what you're doing, as a matter of fact, I think I'm just going to let you post whatever the heck you want, just to show the fruits of Islam. This is the fruits of Islam. Thank you for making that example of me. Okay, so when people like this immigrate to other countries, this is the kind of crap. Tell me, when we look at this bomber on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, whatever. Do you think this guy loved his country? Do you think that any of these guys that come to the United States or come to Western countries love Western country? No, they hate their country, and they do everything that they can to try to tear it down. So the question is why in the Hades do we allow these pieces of garbage in? This is what they're doing in Italy. Let me show you here real quick.
Che casino in Piazza Duomo, sì, che tristezza.
Okay, the Duomo Square is in Milan. Milano is in northern Italy. Milano in northern Italy, they're very liberal. They're very cosmopolitan. You know, they're more tolerant. I guarantee you, if these guys tried to pull this kind of crap in Naples, they would be taken out into the Med and have anchors tied around their necks.
Che tristezza, quei cretini che hanno occupato la statua in Piazza Duomo insultando l'Italia, gli italiani sventolando bandiere di altri paesi e insultando anche la polizia. Ecco, magari qualcuno sta anche seguendo questa diretta. Se non ti trovi bene in Italia, se non ti piacciono gli italiani, se ti senti a disagio, torna da dove sei venuto. Non c'è bisogno di voi. L'Italia è un paese generoso, accogliente, solidale. Non c'è bisogno di voi. Anche perché vorrei sapere se un italiano andasse in uno dei vostri paesi, andasse in un paese arabo, andasse in un paese islamico.
Exactly. So let's look at what these guys are doing here. Let me just show you this. Can you guys hear that?
Yes, I have one comment after
How about this one?
Secondo te, noi musulmani dobbiamo festeggiare il 31 dicembre o non dobbiamo, secondo te?
Noi non siamo nel 2025 musulmani, siamo nel 1449.
Ma secondo te, noi musulmani dobbiamo festeggiare?
So he's not saying that it's not 20. They're not supposed to be celebrating festivals in 20. And the fact is that it's not 2025. It's 1449 or whatever. I can't translate Italian, but I know enough that that's what he's saying.
I have a comment on this too.
Yeah,
What's
okay.
fascinating is that these people are they're mocking, you know, European countries, Western types of things, but look at their hairstyles, look at their clothing. They're imitating what they call, because these are people who are very fanatical people. These are not mystic people living in caves. These are people who are fanatics who align to fanaticism, but they're imitating Europeans. They wear European clothing. They have European hairstyles. They're wearing European earrings. They're following nation states from European cultures. So I'm like, doesn't your fanatical point of position of what you view about religion state that you cannot imitate the non-believers? You are imitating the non-believers. And I've seen a lot of Arab weddings, like Muslim Arab weddings, they're wearing European clothing. So I'm like, are you imitating non-believers? If you are, then you're violating your own fanatical creeds. So I don't understand.
It's cultural appropriation.
It's hypocrisy. It's hypocrisy.
Total cultural appropriations. That's what I tell these women. You know, I'm like, you know, you come from Africa. You know, why you culturally appropriate? Take off the shirt, take off the bra. Okay? I mean, no, seriously, embrace it. But no, then I get slapped in the head and they call me a pervert. I'm just saying. But no, that is a good point. They culturally appropriate and they complain. No, dude, this is the thing. One Muslim in your neighborhood is okay. 2, okay. 3, maybe. 4, 5, 100,000? Not a good thing. I'm just saying, because they feed off of each other. It's like one guy, I remember watching one interview of a dude that wanted to join ISIS. He's from Britain. And he's like, yeah, you know, jihad, it's like a bag of chips. You know, you eat one. Oh, no, crisp, not chips. Crisp. You eat one, you can't just eat one. You got to do it again and again and again. That's how addictive jihad is. And they feed off of each other. And no, I'm sorry. Don't give me something.
Let me address this little point here about what the Bible says about divorced women. You know, and nobody really cares what he thinks he knows about the Bible. But here's what I do know what the Quran has to say about divorcing women. I do know that the Quran in 65:4 says that a Muslim man can marry a prepubescent little girl. And you know what that scumbag can do after he marries her, even though she hasn't had her first period? he can consummate that marriage. And you know what he can do after he consummates that marriage? Boy, he can go ahead and divorce that little girl before she's even had her first period. That's what the Quran says about marriage and divorce. I don't care what you think about what the Bible says about marriage and divorce, because you're the guy that came on last week's show and couldn't tell us what the Injil was. And then when you started quoting what verse was 157, you started taking it, you started adding a bunch of crap into it. So please save your hypocrisy for some other channel, because your ignorance and your depravity. And when we talk about your depravity, it's absolutely disgusting. When you think that the God of the universe would allow somebody to do this to a little girl, you are a sick SOB. You really are. You look at also your Quran where it says that Jews and Christians are the worst of creatures. What do you call somebody who says that you can marry a prepubescent little girl and crawl on top of her and then divorce that little girl? What do you call somebody like that? I would say that is the worst of creature, and anybody that does that is the worst of creature, to include your false prophet. What do we got here? 929. We also talk about they must fight against people who refuse to admit Muhammad's a prophet. Go ahead, big man. Go ahead. See where that gets you. Every time Muslim nations today, 2025, try to rise up and take on any other nation, they get their asses kicked. And why do they get their asses kicked? Because they're a bunch of sissies. Look what Hamas did. Hamas, them big, brave warriors running into Israel and killing little kids and abducting women and cutting the, and then what do? Do they stay there and fight the IDF? No, they run away and hide in tunnels, and then hide in tunnels underneath hospitals, underneath schools. And then when people get hurt because they're too big of cowards like you to come out and fight, what do? They blame the Jews. Them Jews are so evil. No, it's because you guys are a bunch of flippin' cowards. You aren't ever going to get anybody to pay a jizya, another dime of jizya, ever flipping again. If you want to, bring it on. What was another one we had? Committing corruption in the land. You're going to crucify somebody. Good luck with that one. I'm glad to see that your God, Al-Aladin, would want somebody to be crucified, because that tells you what an evil prick he is. Sorry for the salty language, folks, but this just gets my gander. He tries to equate the Bible with the Quran with sacred, thinks the Quran is sacred scripture, and then tries to demean the Bible. What is this other one? 435. Oh, well, this is what makes you so tough. You can go home and beat your wife. If you feel rebellion in her, you can go ahead and smack her around, Aladdin, because that's about the only type of person that you can smack around. Because you're too big of a sissy to stand up like a man. And that's what I think that the Allah has to provide this provision for Muslims, because they're cowards. What else we got? 538. I think that was the one we were on, where you can cut off the hands of who steal. Even if it's a loaf of bread, you're hungry, you're trying to feed your family, you're going to cut off this guy's hand. Why? Well, he's a thief. And Allah says, let's see here. I'm going to take captive women as sex slaves. Oh, yeah. So if you win a war, if you win a battle, which isn't going to happen anytime soon, you can take the women of that city captive and use them as sex slaves. In the past, that may have worked. In the future, it doesn't. Why? Because we know that you guys are a bunch of sissies and cowards. Let's see here. 151 cast terror into non-believers because we join others in worship. That's right. 151. That's number 8. I don't see anybody being terrorized by Allah. This guy that was a terrorist in New Orleans, no, he's just a coward just like you are. He gets in a car and runs a bunch of unsuspecting people over. If you were truly soldiers of Allah, mujahideen of Allah, you would go out and you would stand and fight. But no, what do? Well, you jump in cars, run people over. Here in Israel, a couple women standing at a bus stop yesterday. Some guy, brave Palestinian, comes up and starts stabbing him. Well, that's a brave man. come up, start stabbing women at a bus stop. Yeah, that's the bravery of and courage of your mujahideen. Let me go to Quran 456. Allah will burn in fire those who disbelieve and then give them new skins to burn again and again. That's the guy that I want to worship. Not that, the first time that you get burned in the fire hurts bad enough. He's going to heal your skins. So this way he can burn you again so you can suffer that same pain. Like I said, I don't care what you think the Bible says about marriage. I don't care. I really don't care. What I do know is what your Allah says about marriage, and your Allah is a sick perv.
You know what's interesting too? This is presupposing tahrif. He's presupposing tahrif. He believes that the Bible is corrupted. That's why he can mock it. I mean, the thing is, the hadith are very clear that the Torah, which is being quoted, was with the Jews. And Beni Yadei, Hussein knows this, between the hands. It's between the hands.
Last week, I think I did a pretty good job of showing where this idea that the Bible has been corrupted is a bunch of lies and bunk.
It is.
And the reason why, and here's why. Because Muhammad in 7157 says that the Muslims have the Torah and the gospel in their hands, that it's with them. They have that. We know what the Torah and the gospel look like in the 7th century. We knew why, because I showed him, or I laid out the fact that the Alexandrinus is 5th century, 2 centuries before that, and the Vaticanus and Sinaiticus are both 4th century documents. We have the Bible 3 centuries prior to Muhammad. Then you back that up from the Sinaiticus. I think this was the oldest Bible. You back that up to when they were first written. Well, we have fragments, all kinds of fragmentary evidence of the Gospels, and you never guess what those fragmentary evidence confirms. Everything that's in the Sinaiticus. Everything that's in the Sinaiticus is confirmed by that. There is no contradictions there. There is no big changes that this fruitcake has to claim. On top of that, we have the patristic writings, the writings of the early church fathers, going back to Papias, Polycarp, Ignatius, Clement of Rome, all who knew apostles. All of them knew either Paul, Peter, or John. And all of them quote from the Gospels of Luke, Mark, and Matthew. We have their writings that do that. Then we have Irenaeus, who learned from Polycarp, who quotes and says that there are 4 Gospels, names all 4 Gospels. This crap about the Injil, I see he's probably run away, is a bunch of bunk. He cannot defend it because it never existed. This is a fabrication of Muhammad, and this is the excuse that Muslims use to try to change what the Injil is, because they know that their Quran completely contradicts what was supposed to come before it. This is the excuse that they use, but he's afraid to do that. So what does he start doing? He goes, what does he say? Tell Hussein, explain to what Matthew says. Shut your mouth. Who cares? Who cares what you think Matthew said?
Well, also the Injil is not corrupted.
Says.
The Injil is not corrupted. And also an important argument with that is, do you know there's a movie called Arisal? We talked about this. The Message, the 70s movie. Al-Azhar University has a scene. There's a scene in this movie where all the Sahaba, the Ashab, the companions come up and they quote the Torah and they quote the Gospels, and they're like, they call the Gospels the Testament, and they call the Torah, the Torah, and they quote it and they said, look, the Torah says this beautiful thing. The Gospels say this, the Testament says this beautiful thing. So the movie, Mustafa Akkad and Al-Azhar are giving the green light that the Torah and the Injil are legitimate. So I mean, I find this bizarre that everyone wants to attack these texts. If you attack the text, then what do you have? What are you going to go to? You're going to say there's a phantom Injil, there's a phantom Torah, there's a phantom Zabur. If you make that claim, then you have to be a science denier, because we can archaeologically find texts from thousands of years ago. So there's really no way of taking this position honestly and academically. The only reason you take this position is because you want to foist this theological narrative, and it fails and it doesn't work.
The theological narrative of the Quran, and we're just going over a couple of these verses, shows that out what an evil book it is. That's the theological narrative of the Quran. So let me throw a couple other verses out here. So we talked about 456, where he's going to burn in fire those who disbelieve and give them new skins. Okay, now we can say Muslims cannot take non-Muslims as friends. And that's stated in Quran 3:118, 489, 4:144, 552, and 558. And there's other verses that allude to it where you can't be friends with Jews or Christians. Bible doesn't say anything about that, rejecting people because of their religious faith. It does talk about becoming unequally yoked with disbelievers, but it doesn't say that you cannot be friends with them. Let's see. Here's the one that really gets me. Whoever disobeys Allah will be cast into the fire. That's Quran 4:114 and 8:13. But it doesn't just say disobeying Allah. If you disobey Allah and his messenger, you're going to be cast into fire. Now, you never guess who got that revelation. It was his messenger. So his messenger says, you obey me or you're going to be cast into the fire. How flippin' convenient. You got to be that smart in order to not have a critical mind about what the Quran teaches. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the fruits of Allah. And let me show some of these.
Can I jump in? I wanted to make a comment about the.
I ask you, Nico, also, when you get done with that, I want you to go back to that website that you brought up last week that had the Islamic awareness, or what website it was, that said that the Gospels, the Injil, is the New Testament. Go ahead with your comment.
Okay. So yeah, no, I just wanted to mention about the this historical mass migration of Muslims into Italy and Greece. With the problem there is this is really literally an invasion. I mean, this is Turkey played a large role in that happening. Also, Slavic nations closing the borders, trapping these people in Italy, in Rome, so to speak, and Greece. I mean, these are foundational Christian nations. This is not accidental. And those nations were already from Ottoman Empire. They already had a lot of Islamic influence before this migration. So this is really what we're watching. Is not accidental. It's not a few people coming in legally. This is people that are coming, a large part illegally on rafts and so on, right, in Greece and Italy, and overrunning the place. Literally, it's an invasion. It's a colonization in the 21st century.
Right. I think England is finally coming out of their slumber to this, and a lot of those other European countries. The question is how much, and I'm not advocating violence, but the only question is how much blood is going to have to be spilt in order to rid this anti-ethno sentiment that is immigrating into these countries, because they hate their societies. Every society they go into, they hate, and they don't make any bones about it. Just showing these Italians today was just I mean, that's nothing compared to what you see going on in England today. We saw in Germany 2 weeks ago at the Christmas festival or whatever it was, where you had another guy getting in a car and mowing people down. You know, it's sick what these guys. I
do think it's sad that you have these countries, like, I don't know, like, I'm very proud and happy to be an American. Like, I have freedom here. I have access. I'm not saying America's perfect. There's a lot of flaws like every nation, state, and country, but there's so many privileges that I have being in America. And my dad, when he became an American citizen, was so proud of becoming an American citizen and meant so much to him. He had this picture with him and, all of the, his citizenship papers, and it was so important and so valuable to him. And I think the lack of gratitude and the lack of appreciation for, the gifts that God gives you. It's just, I don't know. It's horrific to me personally.
I've said this several times before on the show, and I don't mind saying it again. I believe it is a demonic spirit. I honestly, Isa, and I don't know how offensive that might be to you, but that's what I think it is. Anybody that thinks that, number one, Muhammad was a prophet to be followed, whose standard of conduct is to be followed, is sick. You have to be demon possessed to not to see that this guy is a murderer. He is a rapist. He encourages the taking of and maintaining of slaves and raping them. He crawls on top of a 9-year-old little girl and keeps doing that until the day he dies. He marries the divorced wife of his adopted son and then abolishes adoption. If you can't see how evil that is, and then you sit there and say, well, he's a pattern of conduct for all time, you're demonically blinded. You really are. And when you see the fruits of what this demon possession does, this right here, this New Orleans guy, let me show you this video right here. This is the imam of the masjid, the mosque where this guy attended. And look what he has to say here. Of course, there's an error that occurred. Come on. Stop sharing. Let me bring this
Well,
back.
while you're sorting that out real quick, I would just like to add that I think Muhammad did something even worse evil than molesting Aisha when she was 9 years old. You know what he did? He died when she was 18. She was only 18 years old. I think she lived to the age of 6.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And for all those years, he denied her physical companionship, to be married to another man, for that embrace, you know what I'm saying? Denied that to her. I think that is by far worse evil. She became a lonely spinster at the ripe old age of 18. Think about that.
Well, that's evil. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. But when he's 53 and she's 9 years old, him crawling on top of her, I can't think of anything even more evil than that.
Well, I'm saying it's an added evil, so it makes it even more evil.
Right.
It's amplified evil. It's like, for instance, like what I've been saying real quick on this, the whole thing with the rape gangs in England now that Elon Musk is exposing. People are not kind of getting this, okay? It's one thing for these Pakistani Muslim gangs to rape these women. That is evil. But that affects only the victim and their families. So it affects a very small portion of the community, okay, as a whole, of UK society as a whole. And it is horrible, it is evil. But knowingly and willingly covering it up by the police and the politicians, because the politicians wanted votes from the Muslims in their community, and the police did not want to lose their pensions or be labeled Islamophobic or racist bigots. By covering that up, that affects all of the UK, because it turns a limited evil into a greater evil. In other words, why would women come forward to admit to rape if it's a Pakistani Muslim? Nothing's going to happen. You see what I'm saying? It's a greater evil. It erodes the trust in society. And it just amplifies the evil that this is.
They always want to deflect away from it.
Exactly.
Or lie, misrepresent what their text is. Last week was a great example of that, of him misrepresenting 5 or 7-157 and trying to say that's not what it means. It's not what it says. It does say that. It was written with them. They didn't, it wasn't some. Anyway. All right, listen, this is the imam of that masjid of, it wasn't our imam's masjid, Rad, as we had thought or discussed, not necessarily thought.
I'm sure he goes to it. I'm sure our imam probably goes to this masjid. Remember, this is a very limited community, I guarantee you. If he does go to masjid.
Houston's a big city. I don't know.
Yeah, but it has a limited Muslim community. No, and they're actually segregated in a quarter, in this quarter. So there's like only a few mosques they can go to.
Yeah, I like to give.
Well, I'll dig deeper.
Okay, so let's watch the video. Oh, wrong click. There we go. Uh-oh.
What was happening to the Banu Israel there? As we said, killed, destroyed, persecuted.
Okay, so this is the imam of the mosque that the New Orleans terrorist went to, his masjid.
Now the question is why? Why were they always treated this way?
Okay, I want you to look at his chart here. Okay, now notice he's given some type of briefing about the history of Christianity and how evil we are or something. Notice he says 313 Christianity centers in Jerusalem due to Roman Emperor Constantine. That is another lie often told by Muslims. Christianity had spread all throughout the Roman Empire, and it was not centered in Rome at all. It was centered in places like Alexandria, in Egypt, and it had actually pushed eastward into cities like Antioch. So to say that it was centered in Rome is idiocy. And then he says 639 Arab armies capture Jerusalem and build the Dome of the Rock. The Dome of the Rock was not built until 691. And that would have been, let's see, you had, who do you have there? You got Abu Bakr, Omar, Uthman, Ali, Muawiyah, and then you have two other ones, and then you have, who is the, Abd-al-Malik is the one who is like the 8th caliph finally builds the Dome of the Rock. So that is not true. Let's see here. Pope sends men to recapture the Holy Land. Christians did not defeat the Arabs. Oh, they most certainly did. They kicked their royal asses. They conquered to the point where they made them the dhimmis. It wasn't the fact that they weren't completely focused on establishing kingdoms and fiefdoms in the Holy Land. They were more worried about ruling their own lands back in Europe and weren't able to maintain it. Now, if we were to go to the Holy Land today and see how Muslims can try to retake it, can they retake that? No. The Jews are there. This little itty-bitty Jewish country defeats any Arab Islamic army that comes up to it. And in the last couple months, they've actually humiliated them to the point where these people won't even pop their head out of the ground lest they be killed. And then this last one, that the Ottomans take over Palestine. I think what he's trying to do is try to justify some type of Islamic rule in Israel at that time, and that's true. There wasn't such a country called Palestine. As a matter of fact, there was no such governing body that was known as Palestinian. It was ruled by the Turks, and before that, it was I can't remember which kingdoms. But we go all the way back to the time of Muhammad. It was never ruled by the people called Palestinians. All right, let's finish listening what this joker has to say. I'm sorry.
And why does the whole world today support them? Why does the whole world want them to stay in Palestine? Because if they don't stay in Palestine, they will go back to their countries. And those people, unfortunately...
Think what this guy's saying. This guy is saying that the reason why European countries want the Jews to stay in their countries is so they don't have to take them back into their countries. That's retarded. That is just simply retarded.
Have one problem. Well, they have many problems, but that's one of the main problems. they like to take control of the economy everywhere they go. Whatever, again, the rule, as long.
Okay, so we don't take in the Jews because we're afraid the Jews are going to take over our economy. You see how sick this guy is? And do you see the sickness permeating down into his believers and why he would do something like he did in New Orleans? What
the
a
Jews, man, the Jews.
The Jews.
As long as I get to my goal, the means don't matter. Interest, usury is haram for them. Still, they use it to get control of the economy. And that's why the other countries don't want them back. So when they support them, they're not supporting them because they love them. It's like, please stay there, we'll do whatever you want, just stay there, don't come back. And Allah calls that in the Quran, وَيَسْعَوْنَ فِي الْأَرْضِ فَسَادًا وَاللَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُفْسِدِينَ. They see corruption on the land. Now in the First World War, Germany won or lost? Lost. Until this guy, Hitler, with a nice mustache, he became in power, and we all know what he did. And by the way, Hitler hated the Banu Israel so bad because of the economy thing. They were in control of the economy. But not only that, they used to consider them a lower level citizen. And they
not just a lower level of citizens, but a lower level of human beings. Now, I can't read what his first bullet says. There's something about Nazis, something fled to Palestine, Jewish numbers restricted to Palestine. That is true. The Jewish number, the number of Jews being able to immigrate to Palestine was restricted, but it had nothing to do with the Nazis. I don't know what he's coming up with there. And then this other one, Palestine turned. What's that?
That was Britain that restricted it. That's why Hitler. No, there are a bunch of things. Hitler actually, Goring, wanted to expel all the Jews to Palestine, but then Britain said no, we are not going to take them. They stopped it, and then they were going to do Goring and Eichmann. They came with this idea to give Madagascar, make it actually the new Jerusalem, the new Israel, but that just quickly went to the wayside. And then, because of all this, it was determined that they had to kill all the Jews for some reason. How you go from that to that is beyond me, but that was their thinking.
And this guy's and it looks like he's a doctor of some sort, but he's a historical illiterate. Palestine turned over to the United Nations in 1947. That was the end of the British mandate, and the United Nations, just as soon as it was turned over to them, granted them to declare themselves the statehood. So I don't. Who knows what he's going with this? This guy.
They used to believe that the German blood is above every other blood. Hitler not only killed many of Banu Israel, by the way. So those who say that only Banu Israel paid the price, everybody paid the price. They said thousands of Muslims were killed.
No, Muslims
killed
part of
the hit for Hitler. Yeah, that's right. I agree. More.
Dude, they have a total detachment of Muslim Eisengruppen, okay, that actually rounded up Jews. Okay, that was what the Eisengruppen did. They also had a brigade of still what I forgot it was, but the ones that were the death heads that actually manned the camps. Okay, Muslim brigades out of Armenia, okay, or Serbia. I mean, no, this is completely insane. But do you have any more on him? Because he actually, it's kind of funny, because the mosque came out and said, "Do not talk to the FBI." Do you hear this?
No, say that again.
Okay, so the mosque gave out a bulletin, put the bulletin up on their mosque door, and sent it out to everyone that do not talk to the media. Okay.
Oh yeah, this is in Detroit, wasn't it? Care?
No. This is in Houston. This is that mosque. It said, "Do not talk to the media." Okay, I can see that. Yeah, don't talk to the media. Do not talk to the FBI. To be honest with you, in this day and age, Eric, seriously, if the FBI contacted me about Marshall or even Kenny, I would not talk to them without a lawyer. I don't care. You do not talk to the FBI at all.
I talked to them. I told everybody that for Marshall, they called me in to talk to them about him. That was That was crazy.
And like I said, I still wouldn't talk to him without the FBI. I mean, without a lawyer. Seriously, do not talk to the feds. I'm just saying, okay? I mean, they'll ask you, "Did you steal a candy bar when you were in the fourth grade?"
Well,
and you say no, and they find someone. Yeah, he stole a candy bar in the fourth grade. They get you for lying to the FBI. You go to prison for 5 years.
Well, this
no, seriously.
People after 6 that people's trust in the FBI and their sense of justice and the Department of Justice it's been greatly diminished.
Seriously, but no. So I can't fault the masjid for doing that. But when they say do not talk to the FBI without, well, they don't say do not talk to the FBI without a lawyer. They say do not talk to the FBI without care. Well, care present, without the Islamic organization present. And that's where I'm like, no, something's wrong with you people. You're covering something up. You know what I mean? Yeah, but no, this is probably Kenny's mosque. I would be shocked if it wasn't.
Okay, I got there's Muslims. A sheikh is talking to a disobedient woman here, and this is part of their counseling. Let me go ahead and hit play.
الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل إن الله سيبطله الناس يا جماعة الناس بس اهدى شوية هي غلبانة الناس يا جماعة اللي بيظلموا نسائهم يا جماعة الوكيل.
What's that, blowgun? What's he doing?
This is culture, but rather violent. I don't know what he's doing to this poor woman. I don't know. Do you have any idea what was going on with that? I think you sent me that link. Meanwhile, in where is this? I think this is in New Zealand. They've embraced their multiculturalistic type ideologies right here. Look at what happens in New Zealand. This ought to make you happy. Oh no, this is Australia. I'm sorry, not New Zealand. Melbourne, Australia. That's your culturalism there, embracing that putting a tent over your wife culture. What else do I got here? Oh, here's this one's for Aladdin. This one he should enjoy, and this is what I think people should be doing. But I would not. Well, I don't know. Maybe I don't know if I would endorse this or not. I personally wouldn't do it. But then again, something's caused this guy to do it.
This book is the danger to society. Understand? So be careful. This book. This book is danger to society. Understand? So I will fire this book. I will fire this book. I will fire this book. Understand? I will fire this book. It's danger to society. It's very danger. Understand? I will fire. This
obviously English is not his primary language.
Play the links I sent you, starting with the fruits of Islam. Well, you say the fruits of Islam. Do a rundown of the rundowns, and I'll give you a woman just a piece of meat. That first clip and the second clip after it.
Which one?
At 1:42 p.m. Look where you're in your in your Skype. Scroll up to 1:42 p.m. today.
Oh, I'm not playing the strip club one. That's not happening. Come on,
you gotta play it.
I'm not doing it.
Okay.
Come on. I will play this other one though. Let me see if I can find it. I will play the other one that you did send me. That was a good one. Where did it go? It's obviously unsatisfactory. Where is it? Praying. No, it was at toward the top.
No, it was the first one. Right up. Why don't you say do a rundown on the rundowns? Yeah.
I found it. Here it is. Whoa. What happened? This page doesn't exist.
Oh.
Maybe that's why I don't have it up.
Hold on, I'm pulling it up. No. Oh, they took it down.
They took it down? Okay. Notice what Rad sends me, stuff that they take down. Gee whiz.
No, so what it was, people, it was Muslims in a podcast that they were discussing why British Muslims rape British young girls. It's because they're just a piece of meat. The guy actually says, look the way they dress. I mean, if you take, we are lions of Dawa. If you take a piece of meat and put it in a tree, the lion comes along, he's going to eat that meat. You don't care. That's what they said. No, seriously.
Yeah, and it was just they were acting like they were having a normal conversation. It's just this is what it does to your brain. You sit there and you have this normal conversation like, well, women, if they don't cover, they're like a piece of meat. And you put it up in the tree, and the lions, they're walking around, and they're gonna have that piece of meat. Are you really that sick? And the answer to that question is yes, they are. They are really, really.
The other one that he won't play at the Muslim strip club, it's a bunch of bocce boys doing the twerking, shaking their booties for the Afghanistan. Yeah, we did a great job there. People.
Yeah, well, that's just a little too much. Here's one that's been out for quite a while that I think needs to be shown as far as establishing Islamic dominance, showing how we can dominate you Westerners.
Allahu Akbar.
So the question is why would a Muslim come into a church, a Catholic church, during the service, go to the front of the church, put out a prayer rug, and start praying? Why would they do that? Why would he do that?
It's very disrespectful. I mean, imagine if someone went into the masjid and, just put like started singing hymns, I think it would be very disrespectful.
Oh my gosh, it's beyond disrespectful. But this is where they want to try to assert their religious dominance. This is why I say they're religious bigots, is what they are. Is they want to come into a church and do this. And watch what the priest does when this guy gets up and leaves. Watch the priest. This priest ought to be defrauded.
Merci, mon père. Merci.
I tell you, if you do that in my church, if you did that in my church, I wouldn't lay hands on you. I would come over and squat right in front of you and stick my butt in your face. How dare you do that?
Far.
But I think what he's showing is that he has temperance and he has discipline, which is a very powerful thing. Because I've seen this on lives when people start cursing and yelling and screaming and saying the N-word and all this kind of stuff. If you give into that type of personality, you're letting that kind of dark force win. You have to have discipline and temperance when dealing with, I would say, dark forces.
Well, there is something to be said to that. During Halloween, wait, hold on. Let me finish. During Halloween, okay, my dad, okay, he was brilliant, okay, because all the kids were going around with shaving cream, right? During Hell's Week, like when I was growing up in a small country town, so everybody was getting their windows and their cars shaving cream, right? Okay, and everybody would clean off, okay, their windshields in their cars, and the next day they would spray shaving cream on it again. Well, my dad didn't clean up because he didn't have to take this car because he took a work van. So he just left the shaving cream on the windows for a while. So the people that were doing the shaving cream, which were like people that I knew, okay, they just left it alone because he didn't care. You see what I'm saying? Okay. Anyway, but everybody else kept getting their windows shaving cream and egg. But that's beside the point. So there's kind of some truth to that where, hey, if you don't give into it and don't pay it, no, never mind, maybe they'll go away. But in this case, I think the opposite is true. Because no, if you don't, no, this needs to be stood up to. This should have been immediately, okay, they should have called security or have the ushers come in and escort the dude out politely, forcefully, and physically. Say, no, this will not be tolerated here. Secondly, it is forbidden in the Quran. He was actually committing a sin because Muslims cannot pray in churches unless the church is converted to a mosque. In other words, that the cross and all the false idols, if you will, are removed from said church. Okay? So either way, he was doing this just to be a pain in the butt and get the likes and the clicks and the TikTok video. Okay? And say, I am dominant here. I can do this. But anyway, I think the priest handled it wrong. I think, honestly, he should have been thrown out, okay, immediately. Now, think about this. If I was to do this in America, Eric the Cafe, quit joining. If I would, because the kids, anyway, I'm just saying. But anyway, if I was to do this or anyone else to do this in America, or especially in the UK, just go into a mosque and start reciting hymns, okay, or praying the Lord's Prayer or whatever openly in a masjid, first of all, said person would be escorted out very violently and very viciously. And third, they would be charged with a hate crime.
Oh, yeah.
They would be definitely charged with a hate crime. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to ask Nico when he met, or not Nico, Isa, when he said dark forces. What are you talking about there? Isa?
What I mean by dark forces?
Yeah, what did you mean by that?
That kind of dark force of trying to, I mean the kind of, how do I put it? Like, you might call it demonic. I don't know what word you want to use.
Demonic. I don't pull any punches on it.
But it's like, it's a really, I would call it kind of very evil, where you go into someone's holy sanctuary and holy space and you insult that space by imposing your own will. It's a pretty disgusting, grotesque thing to do. That's what I'm saying.
It happens all the time. Look at here. Church services in Sudan are attacked by Muslims. Here's another one for you. Arrested for alleged they're plotting to target the basilica in Spain. What else do we got here? No, that's not one. I thought I had another one here that dealt with that. No, I guess not. But I mean, there's all kind where you talk about Muslims attacking Christian services, Christian symbols, Christian churches. You see that every day in the news. Go over to Religion of Peace. Religion of Peace. I have that.
Yeah, the Voice of the Martyrs has constant articles on Muslims killing and attacking Christians in their homes, their churches. In fact, there's one that I saw today. A Christian woman, a former Muslim, she was widowed because her husband was killed by Muslims. While her brother-in-law, a Muslim, kicked her and her child out of that house. So how peaceful is that?
And that tells you the fruits of that ideology. That when I start screaming at the mountaintops about the fruits of Islam, this is the fruit that it bears. Here we have another guy that is from is Rad's neighbor up in Chirac. He shut down an entire interstate down in South Carolina because he's making jihadi plots. Where is this one where I can? Here we go. Let's see here. He's from.
Was this Abdul?
This is a
truck driver.
Yeah. He said that he had a bomb in his truck, and this is right after the New Orleans attack. This guy's doing this. This is the fruit.
He's illegal too, isn't he?
What's that?
He's illegal. He's
No,
illegal. He's in the country.
Not illegal.
No, I thought it was, well, they say undocumented now, or whatever, or a migrant. Yeah, no, he's illegal.
Does not say anything about being a migrant.
You're talking about on I-85, right? He shut it down. He was driving the truck, and they said they pulled him over, and he said, "I got a bomb in my truck because that was going to get you out of because that's going to get you out of the ticket." You say you got a bomb in my truck, that's going to get you out of the ticket. When he went to jihad school, he failed definitely. No, he was illegal. Yeah, he was in this country illegally.
Okay, well, that's Muslim. Here we have, what is this one? This is the fruits of Islam. This is where the Hamas intentionally attacked. Where is this? Hold on, let me find it real quick. Hamas intentionally attacked families on October 7th and kids. They purposely, this is a finding from, let's see here, what report was this? This is from against a groundbreaking report titled the Kinocide, the Weaponization of Families, the Civilian Commission on October 7th, crimes by Hamas against women and children. And they've said that in this, they purposely targeted children. The Kinocide report features contributions from eminent experts, and it details how atrocities committed against families and communities. They included acts such as killing and severe injury in the presence of other family members, eliminating entire family units, abduction of families, including children, using digital and social media to broadcast the abuses directly to the victims' families and the public, including by commandeering the victims' social media accounts, and separating families and burning and vandalizing family homes. These guys are a bunch of pigs. And this is the fruit. This is the fruit from that book. So when I make the argument that the Quran is evil, you will know them by their fruits. Okay, I think that is about enough for the day. I've kind of put enough out there for people to chew on. I got another video that I wanted to show. Let me show this one real quick and see what y'all think of this. I think Rand sends me videos all the time off of Twitter, and I don't know why he does it.
It's It's X.
Yeah, whatever it is. It's excellent. Here we go. All right.
Real quick. Okay. So the one verse where it says Muslims cannot take unbelievers as friends, that is incorrect. It says cannot take them as protectors. Friends and protectors.
Oh, there's several other passages in the Quran. The one that you're citing may say protectors, but there's other places where it does say friends.
But here's the thing. So that means a Muslim cannot go to a kufr for divorce to seek protection from her abusive husband, or a Muslim cannot call a kufr fire department when his house is burning down. A Muslim cannot contact the local, if you're living in kufr lands, okay, cannot contact the local department.
I'm thinking you're being too literal, but I agree.
That's how Muslims are, dude.
If you go deeper and you're taking this particular interpretation of Islam, you shouldn't be going to countries that are like Christian or Jewish countries. Shouldn't be going there because those would be the protectors. If you literally believe that that's true, and that's the problem. These people are literalists, so even going to the country and seeking refuge in that country would be a violation, wouldn't it?
Unless you're doing the jihad, that's the thing. They say they're doing the jihad or the dawah, which.
But how would you do that? But you would still be taking the other folks as protectors. You'd be taking Christian, whether you're doing that or not. You're still taking Christians as protectors.
Exactly. No,
so you would still be in violation, even if you were doing whatever. You know what I mean? It's still problematic and doesn't work.
Exactly. It is one complete hypocrisy. Oh, continue on.
Okay, I wanted Nico just sent this to me, and I appreciate you doing that, Nico. This is let me go back here to the top here. This is the Islamic exam. It's from alislam.org, which is a very popular website, and this is the glossary of an explanation of names, terms, and symbols. So if we scroll down, let me go down faster. We're going to go down to the word Injil. Injil, and imam, a full deep or iman. Injil, what? Injil is the New Testament.
God bless.
Thank you. The Injil is the New Testament. Imagine that. I thought it was a book that was given to Jesus that we don't have anymore. Now, according to this, it says the Injil is the New Testament. Okay. Do you guys have anything that you wanted to add before we depart ways for the evening?
I got a happy thought I want to share.
What?
I know, right? Just the Bible quote, Matthew 24, talking about the end of times. Basically, Christ tells us that, this too shall come to pass, paraphrasing a bit there. And as well as blessed are those who endure to the end, just regardless of what they throw at us. Jesus Christ is already victorious.
Yep. Jesus is on his throne and he's there forever. Amen. Okay.
I have something to say too.
And I got one thing too. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Which one wants to go first? Hold on.
I'll let Uncle Rod go first.
I'm flipping. Come on. We're going to let Darcy go first.
No, thank you, Eric. And thank you for everybody for coming on and exposing Islam for what it is. It's not peaceful, it's pieces of attempted peace. Yes, Jesus is on the throne and he is coming back on the clouds as prophesied. And I'm just going to stop there because I don't want to keep going on and on and on. But I love you all. And good night and God bless.
Yeah, thank you, Darcy. We appreciate that. Before I let these two go at it, there's a contributor in chat, Elizabeth Victoria. She posts all kinds of links there. And this one, she says, can you open this link? And it's the unpleasant truth behind divorce in Surah 1, verse, or Surah 4, verse 130. And the things like in 2 font, 800 pages long. So I'm going to read it, and I appreciate, and I just appreciate the contribution she makes in the chat, and everybody else there. I see Sharon's with us. Sharon, why don't you come up on mic anymore? Why don't you come up on the show anymore? You sit there and hang out in the chat. Come up on the panel and talk, my lady. Okay, let's go with Isa. Go ahead.
Okay, so I think for me, what's so important is we need to learn about gratitude and we need to learn about accountability. And I think these are things that really is the core of what we're talking about here is whatever your religion is, whatever your faith is, if you can't have consistency, that's something you need to work on. You need to temper your attitude, you need to temper your personality. And I think when we see with a lot of these people getting angry at the countries that they're in, that are giving them refuge, that are giving them jobs, that are giving them homes, and then they're dressing like the same people, they have the same clothes, they have the same styles, they speak the same language, they have the same accents. They should learn to have gratitude for these places that they're in. I think wherever you go, you should have that. You should have humility. Humility is such a powerful thing, and there's so much value in that. And we should. And I think another thing from watching all these videos tonight is respect. Knowing how to respect other cultures, other traditions. If you have a tradition that makes you feel that you can disrespect other people, well, then you have to realize that you in kind will be disrespected. So it's better to respect unless you want to, be ready to be disrespected. And I think, yeah, just being respectful, being accountable for your actions, being consistent. I think these are such powerful things. Having consistency, having nobility of character. That to me is such an important, valuable thing. And unfortunately, there's a lot of folks who claim they're this particular religion and believe in a certain textual interpretation, but they're not showing that. They're not showing nobility of character. And that's something that I think that's a value to me, and freedom is a value for me. And I think these are important values to consider. And just thank you for having me here, and love the panel, and God bless.
God bless you. I appreciate that. And the thing about respect is I can, personally attest to this. Like when I have members of our military are stationed in, like when we were in Italy, the first thing that they do is they sit you down and say, okay, these are the things that you do not do to the Italians that you interact with, because you're going to interact with Italians, and they tell you about the local customs and the ways, the things that are offensive, the things that are American that can be construed as being offensive to them. And you have to remember, we were there as a result of protecting Italy as the result of the Cold War, when I was stationed there anyway. But yet we were taught to still maintain a respect for their culture and for their people. Same thing with Germany, soldiers going to Germany. Here you have the exact opposite. These people are coming into their countries unflippin' invited, being extended every benefit that you could possibly imagine, and they still say "affanculo," like that. They sit there and say, you know what I'm saying, to Italy. Your butt needs to be put on a boat and sent back across the Straits of Gibraltar where you came from. That's what needs to happen to those people. All right, Rad, and you're right. It is respect. Rad, go.
All right. Well, again, I definitely agree with Isa and with what Eric said. Totally. But I just want to say, just today, honestly, was an awesome win day. I mean, today we had President Trump certified. Okay. Totally without hitch. Someone who's a convicted felon, a rapist, an insurrectionist, fascist, worse than Hitler, unhinged and unstable dictator, certified as president by Kamala Harris. To me, that is magnifico. I'm just saying. Then we had the news of Justin Trudeau resigning from Parliament because Trump took him out with a few mean tweets. Boom. Oh, yeah. And now I just heard McDonald's has stopped its DEI hiring practices and its training courses and will no longer be practicing DEI in the corporate environment. The wins today, they just keep on coming, people. I'm telling you, America is back, baby.
January 6th is now a national holiday.
Patriots Day. Yes, it's Patriots Day.
Oh, yes. And I wanted to tell everybody that, no, I'm going to save that until next week's show. I'll keep that.
But next week is going to be next week, dude. No.
Next week is the 13th.
Oh, but okay. Well, no, I thought, aren't you going to do... yeah. So it's, okay.
20th, the inauguration.
Okay, I get you. We got time.
Inauguration. The Queen and I are going to attend the inauguration, and I'm thinking of doing a live stream from the National Mall. Maybe not. I don't know. It doesn't.
No,
matter.
you have to, dude. You have to.
Well, I can also get arrested for doing something like that if they tell you not to. I don't know. I know it's security. I've already watching the TV tonight, and they got like a 20-foot fence built already in place for that.
Well, are you planning on being on where the parade? Where are you going to be at the mall area, or will they drive by on the motorcade?
both, because
Okay. So when you drive by, so my experience, when you drive by the motorcade, okay, they got all these cars that go past. They got these big SUV things with all these antennas on it. Once you see that, your cell phone, all cell phones are dead. You ain't communicating nothing about nothing. They got one in the front and one in the back. Okay, so when that motorcade goes past, there's no cell phone communication. Period. Okay.
I can see why. Yeah, this is true.
Yes. Okay. But after that, before that and after that, you're free to live stream all you want.
We're planning on attending both the parade and the swearing in ceremony. I'm just looking forward to it. It should be.
I'm jealous.
Well, I'll send you pics. Make you more jealous. All right, everybody that came, thank you so much for coming tonight and providing your feedback. Those people in chat, I read the chat as we're going along as much as I possibly can, and I appreciate you so much with your contributions. And we will be back here next Monday for another edition of the Cross and the Crescent discussion group. Cold close coming up. Yes.
Advanced student and specialist, that the standard narrative has holes. That's what
that the Muslims were rioting against one another. And as much as we don't want to face the fact, the Muslims were lying sometimes. They were fabricating, they were embellishing, and that might be hard to accept, but that is a reality.